Welcome back to Dangerous Rhetoric, everyone. This is a very special episode for a couple reasons. One, because of our guest. Two, because this is episode 100. We have reached 100 episodes. Yes. Yes, very exciting. This is going to be a quick one today. Brandon doesn't have much time with us, so it'll only be about a half hour, but we appreciate his time anyway. Before I jump into it, I'm going to remind everyone, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Donate if you want to help us continue doing this. YouTube hates us. I believe our last strike comes off the channel today, so maybe we can do super chats finally.
Maybe for next Wednesday's live stream.
Yeah, we'll see about that. With all of that said, I'm going to jump right into it. Today, our guest is the great and based Brandon Straka.
Oh.
Yes, super based. I'm going to read from your bio on your website just to give everyone that quick rundown of who you are. Brandon Straka is the founder of the Walk Away campaign, a former liberal and former Democratic Party supporter who has very publicly walked away from the political left and created a social movement encouraging others to do the same. His original YouTube video about his decision to leave the party went viral in May of 2018, launching this explosive movement, uniting Americans across all demographics to leave the divisive left. Brandon frequently provides commentary on Fox News as a recurring guest on Justice with Jeanine Pirro, Fox and Friends, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and many more. His hour-long in-depth interview with Mark Levin on life, liberty, and Levin exposed millions to Brandon Straka and the Walk Away campaign. He also provides conservative commentary for numerous television media outlets. President Trump even publicly acknowledged Brandon's success in organizing the first ever Walk Away march on Washington, D.C. with over 5,000 attendees. Brandon's charismatic leadership and the Walk Away message of unity and standing up against the left's attack on American ideals resonates with people around the globe. Born and raised in rural Nebraska and now a resident of New York City, hey, so are we. Brandon travels the nation promoting the Walk Away campaign message and sharing his desire to bring a new awareness and understanding to the reality of politics in America today and his mission to unify America. Brandon, thank you for joining us.
Woo! Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. I need to update that bio because I'm not welcome on most of those shows anymore, by the way.
Well, we can talk a bit about that, actually.
Yeah.
And I think, the first thing I want to talk about, I guess, is we can just kind of go a little into the Walk Away movement.
Yeah.
And what was like the pivotal moment that made you really decide to walk away, to leave the Democratic Party and to publicly proclaim this?
Yeah, well, there was like a pivotal moment, which I'll tell you about in just a second, but there were also just a number of things that happened over the course of years that made me feel more and more and more pushed away because I didn't want to leave the Democratic Party. In fact, I wouldn't even have ever thought it would have been possible. I certainly never dreamed that the Republican Party would ever be an option for me back in my liberal days and my Democrat devoted days. And I mean, what I would say started happening initially was that all of these conversations about privilege hierarchies and kind of like the victimhood narrative stuff and kind of the splintering among racial identities and male privilege and straight privilege and white privilege, and so it just started to feel really divisive and toxic to me, and then it started to feel more and more weaponized. And then when I started to really feel pushed out by my own community, or what I thought was my community, the LGBT community, that was a huge moment for me. And I was still a liberal at that time, but it was somewhere around 2015 or 16. The Huffington Post, which I used to totally believe in and read all the time, but they used to have this subsect called the Huffington Post Gay Voices, and I actually always hated it, even as a liberal, because the stories were super disgusting. I mean, it was always stuff like 15 ways you can fist your partner better, and things, and I'm like, is this really the best we can come up with for like LGBT news in the Huffington Post? Like, we can't find any LGBT doctors or scientists or who are doing any groundbreaking work. Like, all the stories were like 5 flavors of lube your partner's gonna love, and stuff. And I was just like, this is so gross. Yeah, and And then, but it really went over the top for me somewhere around 2015 or 16 on their Facebook page. They announced that they were changing their name to the Huffington Post Queer Voices. And I was like, what the what? So I went on there and I was reading on, and I actually read the post that they put out, and they said, they're like, we recognize that, you know, some people in our community may not like this change, but we believe it's more inclusive and promotes more diversity. And I just went into the comments and I was like, I strongly object to this. You know, I said, for those of us who are gay people of a certain age who grew up from in a certain geographical location.
That was a slur.
That name has a very specific connotation. And I said, for a lot of us, that's the last word we heard before a fist came flying at our face.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be called queer. And it kind of devolved into this debate in the chat section. And I noticed that, now you have to understand, at this time, and again, we're talking about like 2015, 2016, I had never heard of a gender fluid person or a gender queer person or a non-binary person. I had no idea that any such thing existed. And what I started to notice was like all of these teenagers with blue and purple hair were attacking me and saying, well, of course you're objecting to being called queer as a privileged gay man, as a privileged white gay man. And I'm like, what? You know, because I was like, I mean, for decades before that, everybody knows it was gay men who were getting beaten and bashed outside of bars, who were being hunted down. Like lesbians weren't getting the hell kicked out of them when they were walking home at night. You know, bisexual women weren't getting gay bashed. It was gay men. And so I was like, what do you mean I'm privileged as a gay man? And the next thing that happened was all of these gender fluid and non-binary people on Facebook banded together and mass reported me in that comment section to Facebook, and I got suspended from Facebook for hate speech.
Wow.
Because I said I didn't want to be called queer. And at that moment I was like, what the hell is going on with our community? And so that was kind of the start for me of feeling like I no longer, you know, I was like, I'm always going to be gay. I'm not like walking away from being gay, but I was like, I think I'm walking away from the LGBT community because I don't even understand who these people are anymore. Yeah. And that started this kind of unraveling. But the pivotal moment was after Trump got elected. Most people know I voted for Hillary Clinton. I was a big Hillary supporter. I voted for Barack Obama twice before that. And when Trump got elected, I was really devastated, and I was scared, and I was outraged, and I was confused. And in January of 2021, right around the time he was about to take office, I posted on Facebook that I would never be able to understand how anyone could vote for a man who was capable of standing before a cheering crowd and mocking a reporter's
2016.
2017. He was about
2017. Yeah. Oops. Yeah.
What did I say?
You said 2021. I'm like, no,
I did.
That's later. Yeah. No, we're gonna get to 2021.
Well, I told you I'm of a certain age. Yes. All right. So, yeah, no, January 2017. I'm sorry about that. He was about to take office, and I posted on Facebook that I could never understand how anyone could vote for a man who was capable of standing before a cheering crowd and mocking a reporter's disability. And that's when somebody who followed me reached out to me privately. She was a staunch Christian conservative, and she just said, look, I'm not trying to like start a thing with you, but I'm just asking, have you seen this? And she sent me a link to a video entitled Debunking the Trump Mocked the Disabled Reporter. And it was just a compilation of footage that showed very clearly that many times throughout the years, Donald Trump had done that exact same voice and that exact same gesture when he was imitating anybody who was flailing because they were caught in a lie. And it showed very clearly that, you know, CNN and MSNBC, et cetera, were lying and deceiving and manipulating when they said that he was making fun of that reporter's disability. And it was the first time in my life that I really saw very clearly that the media that I had been trusting was capable of being so duplicitous and dishonest. And that was the moment that sent me on a journey of research for months that ultimately led to me walking away.
Okay. Interesting. And
Yeah, there's so many times the media just outright lied about something. The Very Fine People hoax, there was that time with the disabled reporter.
Well, I was going to ask about like how many.
Sorry, we got New York here.
We got New York
Listen
City
to those New York City noises.
It's part of our vibe. It
happens every show.
It's authentic.
Every show. It is very authentic.
Well, that happens in New York like every 5 minutes. So of course.
Yeah, especially we're kind of at a major intersection.
Yeah, we're in Hell's Kitchen. It's crazy over here. But I was gonna ask, like, how much did your friend group immediately change after all of this? Like, did you have long-term friends who just suddenly disappeared from your life, or even openly disassociated from you publicly, like to, say, well, I don't want anything to do with this guy anymore? Because that seems to be a general pattern. We've been through that, and we'll tell our story briefly too a little later. But what was that like for you? Because
yeah, absolutely. That was the rule, not the exception. I mean, like I'm not exaggerating when I say I lost more than 90% of my friends throughout the course of 2017 and going into 2018. Some of them just disappeared and stopped, and some of them just stopped answering texting me or responding to my texts or inviting me to parties and gatherings. Some of them were much more aggressive and nasty. I've had people that I've known since I was in grade school who have gone on social media and put posts out saying that yesterday I marked my 8 years of sobriety.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, we saw that post. We were going to congratulate you on that. Congrats,
well,
man.
thank you.
Big deal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it is a big deal to me. My sobriety is important to me. And I think to have anybody weaponize that or throw it in my face is really it's below what anybody should be capable of doing. Nonetheless, a lot of people did. People that I thought were my friends, some of them went on social media and said that I was doing drugs, that I was drinking, and that's the reason why I was questioning the Democratic Party or beginning to speak favorably about Trump or ask questions. I had people say that I was having a nervous breakdown. I had people say that I had literally lost my mind and gone crazy. Some people said I had joined a cult, and all of this different stuff. And then some people weren't even just accusatory like that, but they were just telling people stop being friends with him, stop talking to him, he's turned on all of us, he's a traitor, blah 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 blah. So yeah, it was pretty vicious.
Yeah, this idea too that there was ever a community, I think, is a myth in and of itself. Because personally, I never felt a part of that my entire life. It was never something that I identified very much with. And part of it has to do with some of the things you were mentioning earlier from the Huffington Post and those profile pieces, is just how much of it revolved around just sex and hedonism and all that stuff. And I understand the big part about being gay, right, is who you're sexually attracted to. But I never found any pride events or anything ever focusing on what gay people did beyond just who they were sexually attracted to. It's there was no talk about Alan Turing, no talk about Walt Whitman, no talk about Oscar Wilde, and you don't hear about these figures anymore and their great contributions to science or literature or art. Yeah, Harvey Milk. You don't even hear about Harvey Milk anymore, Yeah. So it's just that always kind of turned me off from the whole thing, because I didn't want to be known as just someone, who had sex with men. It's all right, okay, I'm attracted to men, but what else about me makes me me? So the entire thing, the identity seems to revolve around that. And now that's what the whole pride events and all that stuff revolves around too. So I'm not surprised at all that those are the types of profile pieces that Huffington Post is publishing. It's how many flavors of lube, or how many different people did you sleep with last week, and how to cruise the bars and all of that. It's that is not the totality of our culture. And it's not even culture to me. It's kind of a little lower than that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with all of that. And, it speaks so, I didn't, even as a liberal, even as a Democrat, I didn't ever really feel like I fit in with the gay community either. And I want to be really clear right now, I'm no prude. And when it comes to sex and sexuality, I actually consider myself to be very liberal in that way. I know that a lot of conservatives get very uptight about sex and sexuality. I'm not, and that's not my thing at all. But my issue is I think more about the conformity. I mean, here you've got this community that sort of like prides itself on being so counterculture, and they are in some ways, like you were saying with the Pride Parade and stuff, but at the same time they're really not either, because when anytime I would ever go to a gay bar or a gay event or a gathering or something, you've got all these people, they all use the same phrases, they all talk the same way, they all like I was never that gay guy that was like and I was just like and I was like I just, it always turned me off. I mean, I find it just grating and annoying, but also I don't like that groupthink thing. Like I don't like getting applause for doing the same thing that other people are doing. And I always kind of sensed, sorry, just one more thing. I always kind of sensed that other people in the gay community didn't accept me or kind of resented me because I resisted that stuff. Like I was never the guy at the party being like, and I feel like they didn't accept me because of that.
I understand completely. So we spoke with Chadwick Moore recently on the show, and we talked about this exact subject. And one of the things I brought up to him is I feel like a lot of gay men reject their masculinity, and I'm not saying there aren't more naturally effeminate men. There are. I'm pretty sure they are, and they're not just playing an act, but I think a lot of them take on that affectation, the slay, yes, queen behavior to fit into that group. Yes. And part of it is I think they're afraid of being perceived as someone who's attempting to be heteronormative, because that's bad. You don't want to, how dare you try to be like the straight people, when really it's just, well, no, I'm just a man and I'm more masculine, and that's it. Like I don't feel any need to say slay and yes queen and to have those sort of effeminate affectations, and I feel like a lot of them, they put that on. It's sort of like almost like a costume, and they probably take it off too. They'll go in certain other situations and they're not acting like that at all, and then as soon as they're among their friend groups, that's how they're behaving. And how real is that? You have to wonder.
Yeah, and I that's an interesting theory that I guess maybe I hadn't really considered the motivation for them doing it. And to be clear, I don't really care if somebody's naturally very feminine or a very effeminate man. But my whole thing is just be yourself, just be authentic. I hate that.
That's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people just want to fit in, blend in, I guess somewhere we'd have to go back in time in a time machine to figure out where all this started. But somewhere, I think in the roots of where gay people started coming together in San Francisco in the 70s and that community started forming, somewhere in those early days, somebody started acting that way and everyone just thought this is what we have to do. And if you're someone like me or someone like you guys and you say, no, I don't really want to, I just don't want to, then good luck to you, because they do not like people who don't conform.
And then there's the whole gender ideology stuff, and we spoke with Chadwick about that as well, and we kind of agreed that we think more gay people than we realize actually aren't okay with that, but just like putting on those affectations of being more effeminate, that they don't say anything about it, or they pretend to be totally fine with it because they're afraid that they're not going to get dick.
yeah, maybe. And also, I think that a lot of them don't understand what's going on. And because I kind of put myself in that category until the disabled reporter incident. It was the disabled reporter incident that forced me to start researching and trying to understand why I felt like our culture was changing and what was going on. And I don't know if I would have done that research otherwise and figured it out. But just like I told you at the beginning of the interview, that I was starting to feel pushed away by conversations about privilege and this hierarchy and all of this stuff, but I didn't really understand it. I didn't really understand what was going on, and I kind of just went along with it too, to a certain degree, because I was like, I don't really get it. I don't really get what they're talking about, but everyone's saying it, so maybe it's true. And I think that when there's a lot of people in our community who are suddenly, these are my pronouns, and this is, sometimes I'm male and sometimes I'm female. I think people just are like, okay, sure, and they don't even understand, and they don't understand that it's tied to a progressive ideology. That progressive ideology is I don't know if it's backing the Democratic Party or if the Democratic Party is backing it. Chicken, egg, I don't know. But like, they don't understand that there's like a bigger cause here. And these are all Trojan horses for these causes being shoved into our political culture. They're just going along with it. And some people do know. Some people understand what's going on, but they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be ostracized. But I do think there's a good number of people who just don't understand. And they're just like, I'm just going to go along with it because I don't get it.
Very true. Very true. All right. So I'm going to fast forward a bit here. You know, you launch Walkaway. Obviously, your life changes drastically from that. You know, you have this massive protest in DC. You get a lot of other people to join along, and the movement really takes off. And we have something in common, aside from, you know, being homos. We were also in DC on January 6th.
Uh-oh.
And yes, we had the feds show up. The feds showed
already
up.
happened. Okay.
They showed up at my former residence in New Jersey to question me. And that was at the end of January. I wasn't there. I was here with Brent. My brother calls me. He's like, dude, the FBI just showed up. Someone who lives at my house let them in.
Scared poor grandma.
Which he shouldn't have done. They scared the shit out of my grandma. She's like, you know, what is going on here? My grandson, he's not a criminal. He's an artist. Like, they were asking questions. They knew about Brent. They asked about him as well. Things got crazy. We kind of dropped off social media for like a month. Well, I did. I needed to take a break and step back. We already knew we were going to start this show, and that was one of the reasons we went to DC, is we wanted to get some on-the-ground eyes, because we knew whatever happened, they were going to lie about it. So we wanted to talk to people. We wanted to see why they were there and just what would happen. We left New York for a bit. We went to Florida to stay with our friend for a while. And at the beginning during COVID, and at the beginning of June, they show up again, specifically looking for Brent, the Melbourne office in Florida. And this time, you know, we recorded that incident. We put it on our YouTube, you know, we put it everywhere. But after that first visit, I was public about it. You know, I told people, like, the FBI showed up, and lots of people just vanished from my life.
Wow.
From them again. Maybe a handful, I can count on one hand, reached out and said, wow, that's really scary. I'm sorry that happened to you. That must be really difficult. Nope, just gone. And the same with Brent. He lost a lot of his friend group, a lot of people just who he used to hang out with, play video games with. Suddenly gone, vanished, or just openly called us horrible things and all of that.
My lefty aunt who was helping me with the job hunt just stopped returning my calls.
Yeah. As soon as she found out, like, oh,
you were like, oh, you were in. What were you doing down there? I was like, oh, we went to shoot some video and, you know, do interviews and stuff, you know, for the podcast. And gone.
Thankfully, they left us alone. I mean, we didn't do anything. We didn't break any laws or anything of that
sort.
Stayed
outside.
Yeah, we were outside. We talked to people. We took some footage. We were, you know, photos and all that stuff. And that was
kind of sounds like what I did.
Yeah, they probably just wanted us to, like, you know, did you see this person? Did you see that person? Did you talk to this person? We didn't want to play that witch hunt game. So we were like, no, you know, we're not talking with you without a lawyer. At least that's what Brent said. But your situation was substantially worse, obviously, and it hit the headlines in many media organizations. And maybe talk a bit about that. What happened? I don't know how much you can talk about. Like, I think your case is over now, right? So you can.
Oh, J6 cases are never over.
Never over.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah. We posted something recently on Facebook. You said the government has put every J6 defendant, including those who haven't been convicted of anything yet, on a public registry, not unlike a sex offender registry, where you search any of our names. The top result is a government dossier on each individual, which doesn't even just detail convictions, but a complete file of every accusation the government made, even if it is proved to be false.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Have you tried, like, Google my name? Do you have access to the internet right now? Or will it? Yeah. Just take a look. See if I'm making it up.
No, that's right there. First thing.
Yeah.
That's
great.
Crazy. Straka. Yep. Department of Justice.
Department of Justice. The first thing. Right at the top of the list.
First result. And then click it. Click it. Because please, sorry. Look at that. Okay, so right there at the top, charges, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. All of the majority of those charges were dropped. And I'm actually going to be talking to Tucker Carlson tonight on his show. We're talking. Thank you. We're talking about this topic, but in one of my hearings right before my sentencing, the judge asked the prosecution something about felonies or my felony charges, and the prosecution responded, you know, we, after talking to Mr. Strzok and doing interviews, we felt that we didn't have enough evidence to charge him with any felonies. So we feel that a misdemeanor charge was sufficient in this case, and which is what I ended up pleading guilty to, a misdemeanor. Now, okay, nonetheless, they're keeping all of this in my dossier for people to read. So this is what they accused me of. These are the charges they dropped because they said they didn't have evidence to support, but there they are. They remain on the internet first search result for I don't know how long.
This is institutionalized libel, basically.
Yeah. It's insane.
They're putting right here for all the world, associated immediately with your name, all these things that they knowingly did not have evidence to push, and they dropped them ultimately to a bunch of misdemeanors. That I find that incredibly offensive.
Look at that. The first charge is impeding law enforcement officer during civil disorder. That is a charge that they dropped due to lack of. They couldn't back it up.
So they accused you of stealing a riot shield. Am I correct?
No.
Reading that.
No, what they did was they I'm shooting a video at the Capitol. And I accused
you of encouraging someone to steal it. I think that's what it was, right?
Initially, that's what they said. Yes. It kind of kept changing.
Their story kept changing. Yeah.
It kept changing. But but when it started, it was that I was shooting a video. I uploaded my video to Twitter. Like, don't get me started, but it's, you know, so what drives me crazy, there's so many things that drive me crazy. One of many things that drive me crazy is that if you were to believe all of their narratives about my behavior, my motivations, whatever, what you would have to believe is that I went there to commit a bunch of crimes and do all this stuff, and then I filmed myself doing it, and then I uploaded it to my audience on Twitter of more than 600,000 people, because that's a good idea, right? To film yourself committing crimes, and then because that's obviously I'm an idiot. That's right. So anyway, in the video that I'm shooting, and by the way, for anyone watching, I never went inside the Capitol. I was never accused of going. It's not even like they thought I did, but I did. Like, they didn't think I did. They know I didn't. But I was outside shooting, and in my video, there's a crowd of people in front of me. And at one point, one officer comes outside of the Capitol, and when he does, somebody grabs his shield away from him. And then you can hear several voices in the crowd shouting different, take it, take the shield, take it, whatever. And the FBI initially alleged that was me shouting that. And so that's its own thing, which I can't comment on. But I will say, if I did do that, they charged me with a felony. And so ultimately I was accused of saying the words, take it. Okay. And they initially charged me with a felony for saying the words, take it. They later dropped that felony, but
they couldn't prove it was you saying it because it wasn't.
Well, what country is that? That's a felony. Yeah. I mean, think of the number of times Black Lives Matter people went to like incredibly violent riots and were shouting things like pigs in a blanket, fry them up like bacon, and way worse. Yeah. While people were like throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers and got charged, but I got charged with a felony for take it.
Are you familiar with John Sullivan?
Yes.
Yeah. Why the hell wasn't he locked up and charged with anything? When if you watch all of his footage, and I don't mean just the piece where Ashley Babbitt got shot, because he caught the best footage of that, which he sold to the media that night. If you watch all of his footage, it's like almost 2 hours. He's literally saying, burn this shit down, do this, do that, break that, literally encouraging violence. And it's on camera. He recorded himself doing it. Nope, got released, still making content.
He's been locked up a couple of times, but every time he gets released, there's sort of no media fanfare. You know, the media loves to talk smack about you. Yeah. Nobody talks about John Sullivan. We did like a 3-hour show about it because it was just so ridiculous. And he's still making really high production value content on YouTube.
We think he's an asset.
Yeah,
like
it's totally an asset.
We spoke to Kyle Seraphin on the show. That was our first episode of the year, actually. He's the FBI whistleblower who came to Project Veritas. And we brought this up with him too. And he also finds the case of John Sullivan incredibly suspicious. Like, how is that guy not locked up with these other, Jan 6 protesters when it's like he was literally encouraging them to burn this shit down?
Well, the other thing I think that's interesting about your case, Brandon, is that the House, the new oversight committee to look at the weaponization of the federal government, I think your case is going to be a particularly good example of that. They targeting you because you were, a public figure and an activist, speaking out loudly. And frankly, you're being quite effective in getting a lot of gay people to move over to
very effective. And I do think that's why they came for you.
They targeted you.
I think that too. And there are a lot of discrepancies in my case that I think make it a great sort of test case or sample case to analyze and observe. Here's one example. Again, I didn't go inside the Capitol, but they charged me with a felony of occupying restricted grounds. And as far as I know, I may be wrong, but as far as I know, I am the only person who was charged with a felony for occupying restricted anything. Even every person who went inside the Capitol was charged with misdemeanors of parading and picketing or occupying a restricted building. Like, I actually know a girl who went into the Capitol through a broken window. She crawled in through a broken window and got a misdemeanor charge of occupying a restricted building. I got a felony for being outside.
Crazy.
Yeah.
They wanted
you had a name.
They wanted to come down hard on you. Earlier in the show, you mentioned that you need to update your bio, and a lot of these other shows, like, you're not welcome on them anymore. Is this the reason? Is it because of how your name was smeared over Jan 6?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the most horrifying aspects of this entire thing, because I have felt for 2 years I had the entire weight of the left-wing media coming down on me, which is much larger. I mean, we have a handful of media on our side. They control 90% of the media, and they're coming at me with everything they've got. And I'm reaching out to my friends and colleagues in the right-wing media and saying, I'm not asking you to endorse me. I'm not asking you to support me. I'm just asking you to give me a platform to say my piece. To just state my side of the story.
And a lot of them wouldn't.
The vast majority wouldn't even respond to me.
That's crazy. Yeah, we have a mutual friend. We're also friends with Mike Harlow, and we know Mike has been supportive of you the entire time. We hung out with him a few times, and he told us a lot about what you were going through and how difficult it was for you, and how a lot of other friends who were your friends when you became more right-wing were also abandoning you now that you were going through this, which I think is crazy. It's like you lost friends when you did walk away, right, from the liberal types, and then this event happens, and then you lose some of those conservative friends as well, who all abandon you because they don't want to be labeled an insurrectionist and all that crazy shit.
Right.
It's crazy, man. All right, we are at 32 minutes.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
We know you have to go. We appreciate
I'll come back, you guys. I'll come back.
Anytime. You are definitely welcome. We do live streams. We're going to start doing more consistent live streams on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, and I do apologize. I put the tweet out about the registry and whatever, and it kind of blew up. And like I said, I have the Tucker thing tonight. So will your show air today?
No, it will not.
Okay, well then people can go back and watch it back in time. But so today ended up getting kind of stacked up with interviews because of that.
Good.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But my point is, I'll come back again and talk to you guys longer.
Whenever you have some downtime in your schedule. It's really cool.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. Everyone, please go follow Brandon on all social media. You can find all his stuff
below
on BrandonStraka.com.
Brandon Straka at Brandon Straka on Twitter.
Yeah, thanks you guys. And can I say too, because despite the myth that Twitter is free again, I actually have a search ban on my account, and we're all being shadow banned to filth. So if you're not currently following me on Twitter and you go and you type in my name, it's going to look like I don't have an account. So this whole thing about Twitter being free is it's not.
We've had that happen to us too.
Yeah.
But
if people go to my website, brandonstrock.com, all of my social links are right there. So you can click my link to Twitter and follow me on Twitter. But it's the most direct way to find me. And and all my other socials too.
Awesome. All right, that was episode 100. Remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, donate. It helps us a lot, and the show is growing, and we appreciate everyone's support. Brandon,
congrats on 100 episodes, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for being number 100. It's a good guest.
Thanks for having me.
We love you all. Stay safe, stay sane. We'll be back again soon with another